Chicago, the 1990s. The big, brooding Midwestern city. A successful and renowned vascular surgeon named Richard Kimball gets back home from his job at Chicago Memorial Hospital to find his wife brutally beaten and shot. And then he finds a mysterious man with murderous intentions. They fight, and the man escapes, and Dr. Kimball then goes to talk with local police, who think he did it. He's then arrested, charged, and convicted of murder in a court of law. Then, about a year later, the bus transferring him to his new prison crashes, rolls down a hill, lands on train tracks, and a train hits it. Kimball survives, and he escapes, determined to prove his innocence. This is one of the all-time great action-adventure films. It is a relentless exercise that not for 1 minute doesn't have tension and excitement. Every single moment of this film pushes the story forward into new territory and just keeps on going without faltering once. This is the 1993 legendary classic, The Fugitive. The Fugitive stars Harrison Ford as Kimball, who is perfectly cast as the everyman who is easy to root for, particularly in a part like this. Tommy Lee Jones stars as U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard, the federal officer who is tasked with catching Kimball. Other cast members included Sayla Ward, Jeroen Krab, Joe Pantoliano, Andreas Katsoulis, Julianne Moore, and Jane Lynch. The film was directed by Andrew Davis, who also directed Under Siege, and the screenplay was based on the long-running 1963 TV show of the same name. The story was written by David Twohy, who went on to write Waterworld and G.I. Jane, and he wrote the screenplay with Jeb Stewart, who had written Die Hard. One of the film's most famous scenes is the train wreck scene. This scene was done for real, mostly. The shots where you see Kimball leap from the bus, that was done on a soundstage, and Harrison Ford was shot leaping from a prop full-size bus, and when the train hits the bus just as Kimball leaps out, that was done with a front projection technique called introvision. Optical blue screen chroma key photography existed, but it was expensive, and CGI was too undeveloped and was even more expensive. Miniatures were used for when the train impacts the bus and when the train derails and comes at Kimball. But the actual full-size train wreck itself was filmed with 13 cameras put at various places on a disused railroad in North Carolina. The cameras themselves were cranked up to shoot faster as the actual train's impact was quicker in real time than in what the movie shows, and of course when you shoot film and video at a faster speed, the slower it looks when projected back at normal speed. The film also succeeds at being plausible and believable. The film is consistently aware of the huge chances Kimball takes and never loses focus of the stakes involved every time. The film never condescends to its audience. One rule of filmmaking is that you can never insult the audience's intelligence. Ever. And The Fugitive might do that on 1 or 2 occasions, but even on those occasions, it always drives the story forward. One of the things that makes The Fugitive so notable is that Kimball's character never stops being in even a little bit of danger, and there is always something going on. Even when he is walking on a frozen road, he could be ID'd by someone. Another good example of this is the whole sequence early in the film when he is at the first hospital location. He is wounded from the train wreck and is leaving a blood trail. This is the reason why he is here, and being a surgeon, he can deal with this blood trail issue rather easily. But, even so, someone can still walk in on him at any time. But then, another problem. He has to change his appearance. So he goes into another patient's room, goes into the bathroom, and he shaves and changes his hairstyle. And then, a nurse comes in, and he has to hide. And he gets close to getting caught, but he manages to evade detection just. There's a lot of moments like that in this movie. Check this out. We see Dr. Nichols, a colleague and trusted friend of Kimball's, leaving his tennis club. Then, while Nichols is being harassed by people on the street, Kimball, out of nowhere, appears. How did Kimball know that Nichols would be there? Well, because he's probably been there with him. So it would make sense for Kimball to hide near the club, because he obviously can't go to his former workplace. Kimball later infiltrates Cook County Hospital, another big Chicago hospital, takes a janitor's ID, makes a fake ID, gets a basic understanding of prosthetic arms, as that was one of the only 2 leads he has when he was fighting with the assassin, the other being his appearance, kind of. Does some searching and narrows down the search to 5 men. The first one is no good, the second one is dead, and the third is in the city lockup, a place crawling with cops. Kimball is clearly prepared to take any chance to find the real culprits. What else does he have to lose? That's what totally legitimizes his intentions. It would begin to become more understandable for the other characters who are chasing him to see him as innocent after this, also considering he returned to Chicago instead of going elsewhere. But the fact that he has nothing to lose is perhaps best illustrated in the film's most famous scene, when Kimball jumps from the dam. It's really quite hard to think after this that Kimball is guilty, or that he hates law enforcement so much that he just will not be taken alive. But Kimball has shown up to this point that he knows what right and wrong is, and that he's rational in his decision-making, at least within the context of being a convicted felon on the run. So why would a rational, sane person jump and fall hundreds of feet to an almost certain death just to escape capture? Once again, because he has nothing to lose. Everything has been taken from him. His freedom, his wife, his career, all of that he doesn't have anymore. He can either be caught, sent back to prison, and die on death row, or die at the bottom of the dam. While Kimball is trying to obtain more information about prosthetics at the Cook County Hospital and not being able to do so because of the amount of people in the hospital who might spot him doing something he shouldn't be doing, Kimball sees a boy named Joel who is having difficulty breathing and has a large red spot on his chest. Then, an energetic doctor, played by Julianne Moore, asks for his help to take Joel to the trauma ward, but he looks at his chest film and he can tell the initial diagnosis is wrong and he changes it. Later, Julianne then finds Kimball, and she works out that he changed the diagnosis, which is extremely illegal, and he has to disappear. So then, Gerard comes to question Julianne, and this, I think, is the time when Gerard starts to believe that Kimball really does think that he is innocent. What is also so good about this film is that Kimball is always one step ahead of Gerard and his team. I mean, how else could he continue to elude capture from such competent people? Gerard and his team are no slouches. Gerard is an obsessive, workaholic detective who demands the most out of himself and the others around him. He is a hard taskmaster. Check out this line.
Only one person in a million can survive that fall. The guy is fish food.
Okay, get a cane pole. Go catch a fish and eat him.
Finally flipped his lid.
Making Gerard's character this way is very clever writing. By Gerard being so thorough, it ramps up the emotional pressure the audience feels for Kimball. We know that the way Gerard operates means that he is very, very good at what he does. So let's go back a little bit to when Kimball escapes from the first hospital location. So once Kimball escapes, Gerard and his team eventually track him down via an ambulance he stole from the hospital. Kimball gets to a tunnel, and then to an open sewer, and Gerard and his team follow him down there. And then, this happens.
I didn't kill my wife.
I don't care!
Now, why would Gerard say something like that? Well, because it's not his business whether Kimball or not is actually innocent. He's just there to catch Kimball. That's his job, nothing else beyond that. This is also evidenced by Gerard and his team going to find Copeland, the other escaped prisoner. There is also a red herring. Earlier we see Kimball getting picked up by a good Samaritan, one of the few things in this movie that would likely never happen. And the dialogue makes you think one thing.
Yes! All right, Sammy, we got it. Shacked up with some babe over in Whiting.
She left work tonight and took him home.
But that they're actually doing something else.
I got your man! You hear me?
But Gerard's also more open-minded. Check this scene out. Not only does this display how good Gerard is at his job, him and his team are stunned at what they eventually discover. This is how Gerard's character develops. Through his eyes, through his expressions, all of that.
We got an out in Milwaukee's got an
Hold it right there where the lawyer says that he sounds guilty. There's bells in the background. There's a guy on a PA. I want to drop everything but the guy on the PA. Can you do that?
Guilty.
Next, stop.
Merchandise mart.
Son of a bitch, our boy came home.
So the movie ends with Kimball and later Gerard ultimately discovering who the real bad guys are. But the movie doesn't go beyond that, because the movie is strictly about the manhunt itself, and everything afterwards is left up to the audience's imagination. So, let's imagine what happened after the final scene when Kimball drives off with the marshals. Kimball ultimately discovers through finding out who killed his wife that he was in fact the target, and that his wife's death was incidental and was done to eliminate any witnesses. And through this, he discovers a massive corporate conspiracy to sell flawed medication orchestrated by people close to him who are close to this evil pharmaceutical company. And these people and the company stand to make millions at the expense of thousands of people's health. Ultimately, I think that Kimball eventually gets proven innocent and he helps to prove the bad guy's wrongdoing, and the bad guys are convicted, sent to prison, and the corporation eventually goes bust from the massive legal fees, the fines they get slapped with, and the ruination of their public image through other entities' refusal to do business with them. It's hard to imagine that such a story like this would not get national attention. And as for Kimball being a free man, I imagine he gives up on his medical career and becomes a speaker and advocate for wrongly convicted criminals. And Gerard, as seen through a pretty decent sequel called U.S. Marshals, released 5 years after The Fugitive, leaves no questions as to what Gerard and his team were doing after the events of The Fugitive. The Fugitive was a smash hit and was the second most financially successful film of 1993, behind, what else, Jurassic Park. 1993 was a seriously good year for movies. In addition to The Fugitive and Jurassic Park, classics such as Schindler's List, In the Name of the Father, Shortcuts, The Piano, and many, many others were all released that year. And The Fugitive was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, but only won 1, Best Supporting Actor for Tommy Lee Jones. Even so, this has to be one of the greatest achievements in the history of this specific category, because this category had such strong competition that year. Leonardo DiCaprio was nominated for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Ralph Fiennes for Schindler's List, he was actually the favorite to win, John Malkovich for In the Line of Fire, and Pete Postlethwaite for In the Name of the Father. Now, I've seen all those films, and I think it's safe to say that any one of those performances could have won in most other years. But The Fugitive is top of the line in terms of action movies and action movie making. This is a movie that anyone can enjoy. It moves at breakneck speed and never lets up. It feels authentic all the way through. It's a great film, one that feels as modern as if it came out yesterday.